Let us discuss the history of anthropology, page 2, growth of anthropology. The growth of anthropology can be discussed under the following headings. First, we have introduction. In the previous lecture, we have discussed the emergence of anthropology. Let us now discuss the growth of anthropology, that is, the development of anthropology as an organized and systematic discipline. In today's lecture, let me tell you a brief review of the growth of anthropology in general. Next, we have early periods, 18th to 19th century. Let us review in brief the works of eminent scholars to assess the growth of the world anthropology. During this period, many divergent views about the origin of biological and social aspects of human beings by scholars of different countries were expressed, which ultimately shaped the theories of culture. Among these scholars, mention may be made of Marx 1818 to 1883, Charles Lyell 1797 to 1895, William Smith 1769 to 1839, etc. While Marx accepted the dialectical process as the moving power of history and believed that this process was marked by conflict. Parties. A French archaeologist came across some stone hand axes deposited in a river bed. He gave an archaeological origin of culture. This archaeological site was also visited by the famous British archaeologist Charles Lyell, who confirmed it and brought some of the findings to England and presented to the Royal Society and British Academy. Next, we have Convergent Period, when various convergent views like economic origin of society, the psychological origin of culture, or the archaeological explanation of the origin of man and his culture, etc., were being talked about. Charles Darwin, 1809 to 1882, was working on his monumental theory of evolution, which he announced in 1858, just 1 year after the death of Auguste Comte. However, Darwin's theory of evolution came out in printed form in 1859, which brought out with concrete evidences the physical evolution of man. Darwin's scheme of evolution also tested his two major hypotheses, namely the struggle for existence by natural selection and survival of the fittest, which were demonstrated by Darwin through light on man's position in animal kingdom, ranging from mammals to Homo sapiens. After the publication of Origin of Species in 1859, physical evolution of man based on scientific investigation was established. Although missionaries and clergymen abused Darwin for neglecting the supreme power, which they had pitched till then as the only creator of the universe, man and culture. In this way, the convergent period of the world anthropology, when diversities of arguments and views were expressed about the origin of man and society, came to an end with the publication of Origin of Species 1859 by Charles Darwin, who was called as the father of world anthropology. Next, we have the Constructive Period. After the end of the Convergent Period, which virtually disappeared with the publications of Darwin's Origin of Species, the constructive phase of world anthropology started. During this period, anthropology not only as an independent discipline of teaching and research was started in many British universities like Oxford in 1884, Cambridge in 1900, etc. But scientific researches and publications thereon were also accelerated by E.V. Tylor, James Fraser, Henry Mann, Adolphe Bastien, L.H. Morgan, and others, which ultimately strengthened the subject for wider recognition all over the world. During this period, various types of anthropological researches led to the formation of different branches of anthropology like ethnology, prehistory, social anthropology, physical anthropology, etc. Next, we have the growth of anthropology in Europe and the USA. During the constructive period of world anthropology, not only significant anthropological researches were done in England, Germany, USA, etc., but even in France, where anthropology as a distinct subject of teaching and research had not been recognized till then. Emile Durkheim, 1856 to 1917, and associates like Paul Rivet, Marcel Mauss, Levi Wool, etc., recognize the importance of studying the primitive societies for knowing the social systems of the world as a whole. Their researches finally established a sociological school of thought in France, which ultimately helped anthropology to flourish rapidly. It was in France where Durkheim started in 1898 a famous scientific journal in sociology named L'Année sociologique, in which large number of papers of anthropological interest were published. Again, during this constructive phase, some important journals like American Journal of Folklore, Bulletin of the Royal Anthropological Society of Great Britain and Ireland, now known as MAN, etc., were also started, which not only covered large number of anthropological papers, but also encouraged the colonial administrators to contribute reports and papers for publications, reviews and comments, etc. These colonial administrators, posted in different British dominions, made tremendous contributions for strengthening the anthropological researches. Next, we have pioneers of anthropological research in India. For instance, the researches done in India by these British officers during this period, such as William Crook in North India, E. Thurston in South India, O. Malay in Northeastern India, Russell in Central India, etc., ultimately led to the opening of anthropology in many Indian universities at a later stage. Next, we have beginning of anthropological teaching in the universities. During this period, many developments have been encountered, and special mention may be made of the first year of social anthropology in 1908 in the University of Liverpool in London, chaired by Sir James Fraser. Teaching of anthropology was started for the first time in India at the University of Calcutta in 1920. The teaching of social anthropology was started in the Department of Sociology at the University of Bombay in 1919. The first anthropological journal in India, known as Man in India, was started in 1921 by late Sir A.C. Roy, the father of Indian ethnography, and many other significant developments promoting the cause of anthropology took place during this period. Next, we have anthropological schools of thought. Many anthropologists have pointed out that during this period, various anthropological concepts were propounded, which led to the foundation of different schools of thought in anthropology. Most of the schools of thought, namely functional school of thought, structural school of thought, school of diffusion, culture and personality, etc., were developed during this period. The authors of this period specialize in theorizing the concepts, definitions, classification of the different aspects of culture, which are still unparalleled in the history of anthropology. For instance, Malinowski flourished in the field of anthropology during this period. Most of his publications were published during this period, as well as his historical field expedition among the Trobriand Islanders was done during the same period. Radcliffe Brown, a matchless theoretician of the British School of Anthropology, got his training in social anthropology under W.H.R. Rivers and A.C. Haddon in Cambridge during this period. Finally, at the world level and especially in USA, anthropologists like A.L. Grover, Ruth Benedict, Margaret Mead, Robert Redfield, Clark Weisler, etc., who have shaped the destiny of the world anthropological thought, flourished as anthropologists and then as theoreticians during Penniman's critical period of world anthropology. Thus, to a great extent, Penniman was correct when he says that critical period in world anthropology began after 1900 AD, and probably the significant and very critical developments which took place in this discipline all over the world, where the main criterions which Penniman took into consideration for explaining the development of anthropological concepts during this period. After discussing all the different phases of the growth of world anthropology, now let us draw the conclusion. These are the phases and developments of the world anthropology as discussed above. As the book 100 Years of Anthropology by Penniman was published in 1935, it has virtually concluded the progress and growth of the world anthropology only up to that period. However, sufficient progress and development have taken place in the different branches of anthropology, which also reveal the trends in anthropological thought and theories, as reflected through the various world anthropological and ethnological sciences.